Now I'd like to share with you some more detailed information about how the Nerveana functions. The Nerveana has one primary alarm mode that sounds like this. The way that alarm sounds is when the doctor is using the stimulating probe, and if the probe touches a nerve and that neuron fires to the target muscle that's being monitored, and these electrodes feel or record a corresponding muscle response, then the Nerveana is designed to detect that evoked response and alarm. Now I have EMG View software up here to help illustrate this. Having the visual helps to better understand how the Nerveana is working. So what you can see here on the screen is a graphical representation of all the electrical activity being picked up by these electrodes on my forearm muscle. You can see that if I tap on the electrodes, I get a little bit of noise, a little bit of a signal response, just indicated by those lines on the screen, just by kind of just tapping them and moving them around. And you'll see that in surgery sometimes, that if the doctor is pressing on the electrodes, there'll be some electrical activity. But that's not significant, because what we're looking for is activity that's elicited by stimulation of the nerve. Now, if I flex my muscle by making a fist, you see a lot of electrical activity. These electrodes are picking up the electrical signal that's generated when my muscles contract. And what you get is a fairly disorganized graphical representation, because all the individual muscle fibers are firing at different times to flex and make a fist. It's going to look a little different when you're using the stimulator probe, because when you get an evoked response through the nerve, all of the muscle fibers fire at the same time, and you get a very characteristic looking graphical representation. Here, I'm going to go ahead and show it to you by holding the test button. This is a nice feature because when you hold the test button, it simulates a evoked muscle response, which by the way is called a compound action potential. All of the action potentials of the muscles are compounded in an evoked response because they happen all at once. So here is what an evoked response would look like. As opposed to all the noise you see when I make a fist, this is an evoked response. It's a very tight and confined area where the muscle is contracting all at once. And I'm going to show you that now in a little bit different view. And before I do that though, I want to explain a little more how the Nerveana works. When the surgeon stimulates with this probe to elicit an evoked response, what the Nerveana is doing is delivering to the patient the rated amount of electrical signal in milliamps. It's being delivered through the tips of this instrument, and it's being delivered at a rate of 4 times per second. The electrical currents being delivered and measured in return to the machine for that measurement through this needle that's in the shoulder. So I'm going to bypass the patient, so to speak, which would normally be in between the needle and the probe. And in this case, I'm just going to touch them together without flexing my muscle here. Let me just set this down and grab it with my unmonitored arm. If I can grab it. Now, that is what the surgeon hears when they're delivering stimulation. 4 times a second. Tick, 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 tick. If the muscle that's being monitored were to respond, I'm going to simulate that by making a fist. That stimulation ticking sound is replaced by the alarm. Watch. Now, I want to help you better understand the way the Nerveana works, I'm going to change the scenario slightly. Note that I'm no longer stimulating. You don't hear a ticking sound. I'm going to make my fist. No alarm. The reason for that is, even though you can see the same signal here, and I'll even hold my fist and start stimulating, now you hear the alarm. The reason for that is the Nerveana is designed to specifically look for the compound action potential or muscle response elicited or evoked by its own instrument. And it does that 4 times a second when the instrument is being used. When this instrument's not being used, the Nerveana will not alarm from the monitoring. This is what we mean then by evoked electromyography. Thank you.